This is team number 9, so I'll let them just get started.
Good morning, everybody. This is Team 9. We're working on diamond optics measurement system. My name is Abid Al-Sanan, and these are my teammates.
My name is David Scott.
My name is Mohamed Usha.
I'm Jessica Oaks.
I'm Thomas Rex.
Our facilitator is Professor Prem Chahal, and our sponsor is Fraunhofer Research Center. Here's an overview of what we're going to be talking about today. First, we're going to start with a background about our sponsor. Then we're going to talk about birefringence, which is a method of measuring the optical quality of diamond. We're going to talk about some design parameters, possible design solutions, and the final solution that we picked, hardware and software components, some risk analysis in the team, time management of the project, personal responsibilities of each team member, and then we're going to talk about the budget of our design, and then we're going to end with a summary. So about our sponsor is Fraunhofer Center for Coatings and Laser Application. The center is located here in MSU, and that's a picture of the center. This center actually grows some of the highest quality diamond. And now growing diamond, there are two methods of growing diamond. The first method is chemical vapor deposition, and the second one is HTHP, which is high temperature, high pressure. However, regardless of which method you're using to grow the diamond, there will always be some diamond impurities. Now, while you're growing the diamond, some defects would grow along with the diamond, and these defects may be caused by lattice irregularities within the diamond. Now, these defects affect the optical quality of the diamond. And now, in our project, and what our sponsor has asked for, is to come up with a design that would allow us to measure the optical quality of the diamond. And in order to do that, we're using a method called birefringence, which allows you to find out how pure the diamond is. And my partner Jessica here will tell you more about birefringence.
So as Abid mentioned, the specific property we're going to be measuring is the birefringence of diamonds. Diamonds are optically isotropic, which means that theoretically the light will travel straight through. What we're going to be doing to measure birefringence is using polarized light. So we're going to have our laser, and then it'll pass through a polarizer. And then it will travel through our sample and a second polarizer, which is going to be off by 180 degrees. And if the sample is pure, there'll be no light coming out of the other polarizer. So the image here is of glass and basalt crystals, but it demonstrates what our sample should theoretically look like. The black circles are glass that have zero birefringence. A pure diamond should look black like the glass circles, which is what we're hoping to see. If there are any impurities, the way that the light travels through the sample is going to shift the wave, so that the second polarizer is not going to completely cancel out all the light, and we're going to end up with an image. So if we have an impure sample, we might end up something like this, where we get a little bit of color in the area where there's impurity.
I'm going to talk about our design parameters, or our design constraints that our sponsor brought to our attention. One of the first constraints that we have to worry about is the filtering of ambient light. Since the ambient light, we're using a laser source to shine through our diamond. Ambient light can affect our measurement system. Gotta worry about calibrating our components or aligning our system. And the effect that can also affect our measurements. Our sponsor has specifically requested that we get a resolution of our diamond sample down to around 10 micrometers. And then the wavelength of our laser has to be taken into account. We can't use anything greater than infrared, or it's damaging or harmful to the crystal. So we're going to be using somewhere along the lines of visible light. And then size, while it might not be our greatest importance, we don't want something as big as like a human design going on, so we gotta be able to try and fit it on like a 5x5 lab bench. So
Our possible design solutions were somewhat limited because we knew we were going to use polarized light, so we had to have a light source and then 2 polarizers with our sample in between. But one of the first things we had to consider was whether to use a red laser or a green laser. The main advantage of the red laser is that it's cheaper. It's kind of like your middle school science standard laser, so the parts you can get for modifying a red laser beam are relatively cheap. The laser itself is very cheap. Green lasers, on the other hand, are more of the scientific and industrial standard. They're a little more expensive. And since the specific lenses and photodetector or camera we're using would have to be focused into that frequency, this is one of the first things we had to consider. The next main design consideration was whether to use a photodetector or a camera. For the photodetector design, we would have the laser travel through a specific part of the sample, and the photodetector would take the measurement of the intensity coming through the diamond at that point. We would use a 2-dimensional stage with a fine-tuned motor that would move this, after the measurement had been taken, move the sample over about 10 microns and take another measurement. And it would take measurements of the entire sample, and then we would use software to map the intensity right at each location with the location. For the camera design, we would expand the laser beam so that it would cover the entire sample, and then use a high-resolution camera to take one picture of the entire sample. This design would require mostly software because we'd have to analyze each pixel to determine the intensity. The advantages of the photodetector is that it could be more accurate, maybe. We ended up finding a camera that would be more accurate than a photodetector. And this big advantage with the camera is that there's less hardware, and it's cheaper because the 2-dimensional stage that we need to rotate the sample would actually be pretty expensive and might go over our budget. Finally, we had to decide if we were going to have our setup horizontal or vertical. Originally, we were thinking horizontal, where the laser beam would travel parallel to the ground. The advantage with this would be we would hold our sample up on all sides using some type of screws or support system, so that the beam would pass through both polarizers in the sample, and that's it. The problem with this design is it'd be really easy for the sample to be tilted, and that could completely throw off our measurements. With the vertical stage, we would have the laser beam shining straight up, and our sample would rest on a piece of glass, which should have 0 birefringence. However, this could slightly alter our measurements, which is at first. However, the huge advantage is that it's not going to throw off our alignment. So this is a simplified drawing of our final design. We ended up deciding to go with the green laser because we had enough room in our budget for it. We decided to go with the vertical orientation mainly because it made our alignment easier, so we should be able to get more accurate measurements. And we decided to go with the camera as the way of taking our measurements because we think that might be less prone to human error.
For hardware and software specific considerations, for our CCD camera, which Jessica was talking about, we chose to go with a Celestron NextImage 5-megapixel camera. This camera is originally designed to attach onto a telescope and take pictures of, say, Jupiter or Saturn. One of the reasons we ended up going up for this camera is that software was already included with it, and it allowed us to control gain, exposure time, and other vital components. It allows for a variable resolution size so that if you want to take a quick image that's maybe less precise, you can speed up your processing time. Or if you need a precise image, it allows for that also. It has a high resolution camera giving us a sample size of about 2.2 microns, which is less than what our sponsor. Now this camera didn't necessarily come with a lens. We need to pick up a lens somewhere. We are currently experimenting with a camera lens, and we've determined that we need about 200 times like a 10mm focal lens. Our laser that we're going to go with is actually a typical laser pointer that you can find on Amazon for like $5 or so. The reason we went with a typical laser pointer is it's actually cheaper to just get a laser pointer than to go out and buy like a laser diodes. Like Jessica mentioned, we went with our polarizers. We went with Edmund Optics laminated film polarizers. 2 reasons we did this is A, they're square, so it's easier to tell when there's a 90-degree offset to determine to allow for the light filtering. And the other reason is that we can attach them thermally to glass slides, making them easier to handle. Our sample housing, we're actually going to design in CAD and probably send it out to get 3D printed. We would do it here, but it's actually too expensive to do here, so we got to send it out to a third party. And the entire design will have one micro USB to USB interface that both supplies power to the whole design, both the laser and the camera, and it acts as a data bus between the two. For software, we are actually going to be building a GUI out of MATLAB that links both Celestron's image capturing software and MATLAB's image processing software to create both a heat map of areas of poor or excellent and to display data for our sponsor in his research. I'll hand it over to Tom for this one.
For our design project, there's always risks involved, of course. Similar to the parameters, the risks also tie in with that. So like I mentioned before, the alignment of components are one of our greatest risks. Like we said, any tilting of this way or even this way in the X or Y direction can result in refractants that will not be going up with our results that we need. Another risk is handling with the lenses of the camera and the diamond sample itself. We need to take extra caution. We can't be rubbing our fingers all over on it or having someone accidentally sneeze on it, as Professor Chahal decided to demonstrate and point out so candidly. Ambient light also, can't have ambient light, thus we're making a structure around our design, so ambient light does not shine in and affect off the crystal sample and destroy our measurement. Stability of the platform is also important. When turning on and off laser, we can't be directly pressing it, so we're going to give a switch. Be pressing it, and it's going to vibrate the laser and also possibly the whole stability of the structure. So if we do that, then that will also throw off our measurements. And then also laser safety. We've always got to be weary of the risks of shining the light, whether it reflects off the diamond and maybe even hit our eyes or something. So we gotta be careful of any type of laser problems that may come about.
So for the project management plan, the team decided to divide the project into 3 phases. The first phase, the research phase, where we did internet and literature research to study more about the project, especially the birefringence concept. And then we also had several meetings with our sponsor and also our facilitator in order to gain more understanding and clarification about the specification of the design. After we brainstorm all the ideas all together, we move to phase 2, which is the concept experimentation. So in phase 2, we divide our team into 2 groups. One group will be responsible for the birefringence design, which they will experiment whether the red laser is better than green or green better than red, and they will try to adjust the alignment of the laser, polarizer, sample, and camera, make sure it's working. And then for the second group, the acquisition group, they will play around with the CCD camera and figure out how to obtain data from it. They also have to determine the focal length needed so that the camera will work in a short range. And for phase 3, the prototype development and testing, one group will do the graphical user interface, where they will build software based on MATLAB to analyze the image captured by the camera. And then for the other group, noise reduction and platform building, they will build a platform where the whole whole process is going to take place. They will have to make sure the platform is free of ambient light and sturdy, so that any slight movement won't change any alignments of the laser. And they also do some laser modification, so that the laser is run through USB power instead of battery. So here is our project timeline. As you can see here, phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3. We are currently in the middle of phase 2, so we are on schedule right now. For the non-technical role, Jessica Oaks is our project manager, Afif the webmaster, does the documentation, David the presentation, and me the lab coordinator. As for technical role, we assigned 2 roles for each member, one from phase 2 and one from phase 3. During phase 2, the firefringe design will be conducted by Jessica and Afif. For the data acquisition part will be done by Thomas, David, and me. And then for phase 3, the graphical user interface will be done by Jessica, Thomas, and David. And for the platform building will be done by Afif and myself.
The budget, or our costs, as you can see, most goes into the camera work and the lens, since we're using space equipment pretty much. We don't have an exact estimate yet of our stage mounts of a 3D printer, but it's roughly going to be around $150. Also with the camera lens, we're estimating it's around $100. Everything else, polarized, beam expander, laser, we have, and our total cost is under budget at around $435.
Now, in conclusion, I just would like to mention that the reason that we're working on this project is for our sponsor, for Vancouver Center, to have a device where they can measure the quality of the diamond that they grow. And we're hoping that our project will be more accurate than the methods that they use right now. And if that's the case, that's gonna save time and money. Because our device is like really cheap, the design is really cheap, it's less than $500. And in terms of time, it's gonna save them, like, they won't need to send like samples to other labs to measure them, or they won't need like to get devices to measure the quality of the diamond that they grow. And thanks for listening and questions.
Are there questions?
So I'm assuming that they make commercial units to do this, and I'm guessing they cost more than $500, but how do you guys plan on calibrating your instrument? Do you use like specific diamonds that you know the birefringence of it already, so you can make sure yours is measuring correctly?
Yeah, we were given samples that our sponsors already tested using, they had a kind of sketchy way of measuring birefringence that gave them preliminary results.
Mm-hmm.
So we can look at theirs and make sure it matches up with ours.
It seems like not all cameras would like having a laser pointer shot at them. Have you looked at different cameras? Are some better than others in terms of resolving a little laser?
When the laser beam, the optical power we're using is around 5 milliwatts. When it passes through both polarizers, offset by 90 degrees, it only transfers 0.04% of the power, putting it into the microwatt range, 12 milliwatts.
Okay. So basically any camera would work then?
Yes.
Okay.
So we can get within the diamond sample that we're going for, which is what ours does.
Mm-hmm.
I have a question. Are you moving the diamond around with the laser beam, or expanding the laser beam, or what's?
We're expanding the laser beam to cover the entire sample, so we just take one image.
So they're variable sample size, we can come to multiple sizes.
Okay. Well, thank you. Team 10 can set up now. Thank you. Next presentation.